California's Gold is produced in association with KCET Los Angeles and is seen statewide on California Public Television. This series is endorsed by the California Teachers Association, the California School Boards Association, and the California Library Association.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell on the farm, on a family farm here in Delray, California, about 30 minutes out of Fresno. Now, you know, there are literally thousands of family farms located all over California. On some of these farms, the families have literally been living and working on the same land for generations. Lots of history, tradition, and pride on these family farms. And we're going to be spending the whole day on one of these family farms here in Delray. And we're going to meet a family right here on this farm that is very much a part of California's gold. And here comes the man right here. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Huell. Your name is?
Masumoto.
Okay, you've been warned that we're getting ready to spend the whole day on your farm, haven't you?
Absolutely.
Who is this? This is the farm dog.
This is the classic farm dog called Bochan.
Okay, and this is a rescue dog, too.
Absolutely.
Which makes this even a more special dog.
But he makes a good farm dog, though.
Absolutely. Who are all these people over here?
This is our family. We have our son here.
Howdy, your name?
Coreo.
Nice to meet you.
And this is my mom.
Hi. How are you?
Okay.
Nice to meet you. You've got your mom working today.
Oh yeah. She's quite familiar with this kind of job. My wife, Marcy.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Nice to meet you. And
Nikiko.
nice to meet you. This is your
Daughter.
Your daughter. Okay, now we got the whole family working here. We kind of set this up by saying this was a family farm. So on a family farm, the family all works, don't they?
Absolutely. It's part of what we do on the land and on the farm, but it also is something unique these days to have family working together and the kids spend their summers working on a farm.
Okay, what are we doing over here right now?
We're packing the peaches. We're sorting them in different sizes, culling out the ones that aren't perfect, and getting them ready to go to market.
Okay, now is this is obviously an important operation going on here. Packing the peaches is an important link in the chain, isn't it?
That's right, and we do this all by hand. There are many larger companies that have a completely mechanized line, and we're doing this by hand.
Now,
kind of the old-fashioned way.
Are these peaches grown? Are they raised and grown right here on your farm?
Absolutely. They're just like down the avenue there.
Just right down here. So they didn't have
right.
to come very far to get packed and crated and sent off.
That's right. They've just a couple acres away.
All right. Now, what else do you grow beside peaches?
We grow nectarines, a couple varieties of nectarines, and Thompson seedless grapes that we grow for raisins.
So you've kind of diversified. It's not just peaches.
That's right. As a small family farm, there needs to be some diversification to ensure that if something happens to one crop, you don't lose everything.
Now, your kids, I've been watching your daughter. She's been working. Your son's been standing around.
His work is dependent on our work. So, see, since I've not been packing, he hasn't had too much to do.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to slam you like that. So, you've grown up on this farm, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
And what's that experience been like for you?
It's been kind of different than my friends because they usually don't do anything during the summer. And I actually finally figured that this is an important job, that these peaches go around the country and that we've become so famous, I guess, because of our peaches.
Yeah, and it represents the very best in California. You want your family and your family's farm peaches to be appreciated.
Right, we do.
All right, now your sister, you're older, right?
Yes, I am.
So you've been working a couple of more years on the farm than your brother has.
That's right.
What's this experience been like for you?
It's been incredible. I feel like it was the best way to possibly grow up. We grew up really knowing what hard work means. Sweating with our family. You know, there's the stress of the farm, and then there's the joy of eating, and those two spectrums of life are just amazing to experience.
And what do you mean, the joy of eating?
Oh, the joy of biting.
Eating the stuff that you've
grown.
grown.
Oh, yes, of getting a tree right from the tree and sinking your teeth in and getting to share that with people. It's the best thing ever.
And does it really make all the hard work pay off, or are you just saying that because your mom is listening to every word you're saying back there? There is a lot of hard work.
There is a lot of hard work, but if the joy wasn't here, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So there really is a payoff.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There's nothing like sinking your teeth into a peach.
Do you think that you're going to stay with this? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, you know, I have asked myself that many times, and throughout my development and blossoming, I realized that here is my place, and I want this to be part of my life's work.
What made you come to that realization?
It's a pretty funny story. Much like my dad, I went away to college. I cannot wait to get off the farm. I went to UC Berkeley, and it was actually there I took an environmental studies class, and I finally put our farm in a more global perspective, and I really understood how the roots of my life were connected to ideas of sustainability, ideas of cultivating and cherishing our earth. And it was through that class that I realized that I could make the world a more beautiful place by coming home.
And there is a family element to this as well. Working here with your mom and your grandmother and your brother and your father, it's a different family dynamic here on the farm, isn't it?
Oh, yes. It is intense in all of the wonderful ways. Intense in that we're all in each other's lives, and it's fun and it's beautiful, and intense in that when something affects our business, it affects our family, and we really take it personally. So
there's a direct relationship between the farm and the family.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Mas, your daughter is certainly articulate. She's figured it all out at a very young age.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It takes most of us a long time to figure out what she's already figured out.
I know, she's much smarter than I am, I tell you. On the other hand, she's coming back to the farm, so sometimes you wonder. But this is going to be just a delight to have generations work on a farm.
You want her to come back to the farm.
Absolutely. But I gave her the opportunity to leave, and that was the important thing.
You don't want to pressure your children to do something. No. You want them to come about it on their own if they decide to do that.
Exactly. You want them. My dad always had this idea that he gave me the freedom to leave, which also gave me the opportunity to come back home.
Yeah.
And that's been what the sort of the rule Marcy and I have tried to live by, and I think it's worked.
Well, you know what? We've already dealt with all the giant philosophical issues of life here at the very beginning of the program. Should we get down to the business of picking peaches here for just a minute?
Absolutely.
So we're going to leave you all here for a few minutes. Where's your brother?
Oh,
there he is over there. He keeps running away. He's over there doing work over there. We're going to leave you all here, and we're going to head out into the, I guess, where do we go? Right over here?
We're going to be heading out actually a little further away, this block. Well, there's a tree, too, right around the corner if you want to go to that tree.
I want to go out and see where they're picking the peaches.
Yeah, we'll head out that way, too, then.
All right, we're leaving you all behind. We'll be back in a little while. We're heading out to pick some peaches to give you all some more work to do this morning.
Great, we'll be waiting.
Okay, we're heading down the road, and boy, I'm telling you, Mas has got us in an honest to goodness. There's nothing fancy about this truck, Mas.
No, this is a farm truck full of dirt.
Well, it's good. It's historic dirt.
I guess so.
It's your family dirt.
Absolutely. We're part of. We come from the land, come from the dirt, and we literally drive and live in the dirt.
There's lots of dirt on this truck. This is the real thing. Okay, we finally made it on that wild farm truck journey. We're out in the peach orchard, and we're hooking up with
Roberto Sanchez.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Roberto Sanchez, oh yeah.
Nice to meet you.
He's a good man, and he has good hands. Show him your hand, Roberto. Muy bueno.
Muy sucio. Sucio.
Este es perfecto para el trabajo.
Good peach picking hands.
Exactly.
All right, so he's got to be picking the peaches.
Right, he'll be picking the peaches.
Come on, let's go over here. He'll be picking the peaches, and we'll be watching, but we'll also be talking because we've never really talked about your family and the fact that your family has been on this land for a long time. Let's start at the beginning.
Absolutely. My grandparents immigrated at about 110 years ago from Japan.
To California.
To California. They came from, their poor peasant farmers in Japan had no future, so they, like most immigrants, looked to the new land for dreams and hope.
Did they come to California specifically to farm? Did they know what they wanted to do once they got here?
They knew they wanted to farm. They didn't know what to expect because they came from rice fields. So they thought, well, obviously this is going to be very different agriculture. And they found grapes and tree fruit such as peaches.
So they segued directly from Japan into California agriculture without too much trouble.
Oh, and that time California agriculture was looking for labor.
Now did they settle on this land?
My grandparents were migrant farm workers, and so they worked this area. So at one point they worked on this land.
Wow!
And then it was my parents, my dad, after World War II. They were interned in relocation camps and spent 4 years in Arizona, basically imprisoned. Decided to come back. Dad bought this land right after that, and we started farming here, and I was born a few years later. My dad and mom met in the relocation camps and fell in love and decided to come back to farm here. My grandparents were that classic pattern which was called picture bride, where my grandfather was here in America and he wanted a wife who was in Japan, so families arranged a marriage by exchanging pictures.
Wow.
So that's how they met, and she came over, and when she arrived he had to match the picture to the man that she was going to be living the rest of her life with.
Wow, so your grandparents met as your grandmother being a picture bride.
Correct.
Your parents met at the internment camp.
Correct.
In Arizona.
Right.
How did you and your wife meet? There's got to be a story there somehow.
Well, we were in graduate school, and I realized I wanted to come back, take over the farm. And to tell you the truth, I needed to find a girl that would be willing to live on a farm.
Well, that's not nearly as exciting as interesting as your grandparents or your parents.
No,
there's a story there.
But it was hard. It was hard because a lot of women I met, the idea of living on a farm wasn't exactly very high on their list of goals in life.
Was there ever any question in your mind growing up as a kid here on this farm that this is where you would live one day and that this is what you would do with your life?
Absolutely. I wanted to leave the farm in high school. I probably broke my dad's heart by telling him, Dad, I never want to come back to the farm. And see, I was the youngest son. I had an older brother who my parents really decided it'd be better if he didn't farm because it was some tough times that they went through financially. So I was the youngest, much more carefree, and it was basically up to me if I wanted to take over the farm. And I remember in high school telling my dad, sell the whole place. I don't want to ever farm. And he just nodded his head.
When did you make the switch over?
It was after I finished college and I started thinking about where I felt comfortable with, where was home, where was something that I could find maybe some significance in addition to success. And I realized I belonged here on the land. And at the same time, I began to get interested more and more in food. And that's when I met my wife, and she has this huge nutrition and food background. So.
Let's look at these. Talk about nutrition and food background. Now, these are organic.
These are organic, and wonderfully, these are called gold dust. Mucho bueno.
Dulce.
These are called gold dust peaches. That's the name of this variety.
Wow.
And then if you look at them, they have this golden color to them.
Yeah.
And they have just this spectacular flavor, and they're very juicy. So when
Now, they're not big, but they're not supposed to be big, are they?
One of the challenges of growing heirloom varieties is sometimes you struggle with size. And this year was one of those years
But
we're
they're
struggling.
still nutritious and juicy.
Oh, when you bite into one.
Well, let's the three of us bite into the
right.
peaches now. Come on, here we go. We're all going to take a bite. Here we go.
Bueno.
Bueno.
Dulce. Dulce.
Muy sabor.
Orgánico. Orgánico.
Exacto.
Okay, we're heading back to the shed in the farm truck. Mas, I hadn't asked you yet how big this farm is.
We have 80 acres here and about 25 with peaches and nectarines, and the rest are grapes for raisins.
Okay, so we're looking at peaches off here to the left.
Right, exactly.
Is this yours over here on the right?
No, that's the neighbor's that has the citrus.
So the neighbor's right up on you here.
Oh, absolutely.
Good neighbors?
Oh, yeah. We get along very well, and that's one good thing. You know, we know each other. They have a big operation, but they really respect what I'm doing, and, you know, we know our families know each other.
These are your grapes down here.
Right. These are grapes that we'll be eventually be picking in September and making raisins out of the grapes.
Boy, you know, it's easy to get lost around here. All this land, all these roads, all these fields kind of look alike for somebody from out of town.
Yeah, I guess, except that when I look at these, I see a lot of the history attached to it. For example, we're entering this area here we call it the Hill. And this all looks flat to people, but really, this is the highest ground that we have. I know, because when you try to irrigate it, it's a little challenging.
Wait a minute, where's the highest ground? What are you talking about?
Right here to the left. It is the highest point on the farm, and it's hard to water for irrigation. But also, this was a block that when my dad bought the farm, it was open because it had a lot of hardpan on it. And in order for him...
Hard soil.
Yeah, hard soil, and hardpan's like a rock. It's a really mineralized clay. And he bought it because it was cheap. No one wanted to farm this. So his goal was to clear it and plant, so we have these healthy vines now. So that's what I see. I see the history, the story, the legacy, along with vines and peaches. I see that all mixed together, and I can't, nor do I want to separate them.
The dogs are leading the way.
Oh, the dogs love this, and they follow me, and I follow them.
They know where we're going?
Oh, they're saying back to the house to get a drink of water.
Hey, let's go back to the house and get a drink of water. Those dogs know what they're doing. Here we go. We're back at the shed, and I gotta tell you, I have a newfound appreciation for peaches, for these family peaches. Mas, Roberto, and I all took a big bite out of those juicy peaches. Boy, they are good. I know what you're talking about now.
Absolutely. And didn't my dad tell you what the name of these peaches are?
Yeah.
Yeah, you came on the right day. They're gold dust peaches.
Yeah, and they look golden in the sun.
They do.
Now here's a golden lady right down here. Let's talk a little bit about your mom. And you've kind of been, she's deaf.
Right.
And she's been deaf for how long?
She lost her hearing about 25 years ago.
How did that change the dynamic of the family?
Well, I think it brought us closer together, that we needed to help write for her and translate for her. She can speak, but
Does
she
she
just
read
can't
lips?
hear. She does some lip reading, yes.
Mm-hmm. But it just has made the family even closer.
I think so.
And growing up as a kid on this farm with your mom, now she looks so nice and so sweet.
Oh,
she's a fiery little lady, isn't she?
She was a hard worker, like all farm wives were. Out in the fields with my dad, they tell me stories of lifting these 200-pound boxes filled with raisins as a team. My dad on one side, my mom on the other, and she can't believe she used to lift those things. Yeah.
Now, does she live here on the farm now?
Yeah, she lives right about a quarter-mile away.
Wow.
My wife jokes that it's just about the right distance between your mother-in-law and your own house.
Was he a good boy growing up?
Well, I'm deaf, see, so okay. I need a...
So you type it out.
Yeah.
Ask her if you were a good boy growing up.
Yeah.
He was a good boy?
Oh, yeah, he was See, the children all helped on the farm, and we started packing peaches under a tree, the pecan tree. And then we kept improving every year, and then my husband built the shed, and then every year we kept improving, but we got to where we started getting bigger than we things, so we hired our nieces and nephews and my friends' children that needed summer jobs. So it worked out great. So it was a very close-knit family type of a thing.
I'm getting the feeling it's always been a close-knit family.
It has, because I remember growing up summers and my cousins would come work with us. And it was a delight because I happen to have cousins exactly my age, and we spent summers together working, but also they actually lived with us.
Wow.
During the summer.
So that was a summer adventure.
It was pretty rare today, but back then it was just a delight.
And it's got to be a delight to still have your mom here.
Oh, absolutely.
And you had your dad until recently.
He just passed away about 2 months ago, and I have to say I felt a real loss during this summer because it was really the first harvest without my dad.
Okay, Mas and I are now taking a break. We're sitting out on the front steps. The family's still back in the shed working. But we've come out here to talk about another chapter, very interesting chapter in your life. You are an accomplished writer.
Oh, thank you. It's part of the story of our farm, and I literally put it into words and try to capture that history, the tradition, and also the tension that occurs on a farm too.
When did you start writing? Look at you've got 6 or 7 books here.
The first big book I did was called Epitaph for a Peach in 1995.
Epitaph for a Peach.
Right, and it was about this wonderful peach that we grew that became homeless because it didn't have the cosmetic characteristics, and that sort of launched both the farm and my writing into this whole direction of writing about family, land, food, agriculture, and the foods that we eat.
Is there a recurring theme in all of these books and all of these stories?
I think the theme has to do with family. And the latest book, Wisdom of the Last Farmer, it talks about my father and myself and my role of taking over the farm and that whole issue of legacy, and even talking about my daughter wanting to take over the land after me.
And how have these books been received? I know that you're an accomplished writer, that people read these books, but what have you been surprised at the reaction?
I've been shocked because I didn't know if city folks would read these, but I think they're looking for that connection, the connection with farming, the connection with food, and they have received and enjoyed these stories, and I've been very honored and flattered by that reception.
You know, I think that the readers want that connection. I think they also want a connection with family.
Yeah, absolutely. And reading the nuances of a son taking over a business from their father, the dynamic of generations on the land, how to work side by side with your parents, with your siblings, with your children, all that gets woven into, you might call a reality story, but this is real reality.
Isn't this interesting, listening to your mom and listening to you talk about growing up, as a kid on this farm? In a million years, you probably never thought you would be writing about this.
I mean, I didn't grow up thinking I'd be a writer. It was really only when I came back to the farm that I began to realize there are these wonderful stories here. And it's stories that capture and go beyond just the price of a peach. It captures that flavor, that nuance, that whole tradition that's behind peaches and foods that we eat.
And I think it also captures the link between family farms and families. That is such an important connection. Family farms, and we don't have as many as we used to.
Not at all. But if you dig deep into most families, they'll remember a grandfather, an uncle, a great-grandfather that had land. And we forget, maybe 100, 150 years ago, the majority of America was rural. It's been a fairly rapid change, so we still have that community of memory about the land and foods, and I think that's this renaissance that we've been part of that connect people back with the land, family, on farming.
It's one thing to talk about writing. It's another to talk about eating.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what it's all about,
Well,
right?
that's part of what it's all about. First off, look at this. Here, you hold up one of these.
Sure.
These are canned peaches.
These are canned peaches. They're pickled peaches.
Pickled
So they're
peaches.
in a brine, a sugar and vinegar brine with some spices in it, cloves and
Do
cinnamon.
you sell these?
I don't sell them. I just don't have that much time.
This is just for family
This is for
consumption.
family. That's what it is.
Oh
That's right.
my gosh, these are absolutely, there's just such a beautiful fruit, aren't they?
They are beautiful, and these gold dust really can nicely and maintain a beautiful color.
Wow, how long will these stay edible in this jar?
Well, some people might hold on to them for years, but we're going to have more gold dust next summer, so I don't want them to stay any longer than a year.
All right, but the piece de resistance is right here. Look at this, Cameron. Now, what have you made up for us?
Oh, we made a simple cobbler.
A simple cobbler.
There are traditional dishes that you just have to have.
Can you scoop
Pies,
some of that
cobblers.
out just in one bowl? I just
Absolutely.
want to get the
Sure.
sense of...
It's, so there's peaches on the bottom and a nice simple crust on top.
Wow.
And so look at those peaches. These are those gold
Look
dust
down
peaches
here. Oh,
here
my
on
gosh.
the side. And you can have it just plain like that, or if you're someone that likes whipped cream, we can put a dab of whipped cream on top.
But you know, this is I'm not sure I want to put anything on it, but you want the full impact of the peach.
Exactly. What I love about these dishes are they're very simple, and the peach is the centerpiece. And if you start with a really good peach, then it should be totally delightful.
What a wonderful day we have had here on your, do you call this a farm?
Oh, a family farm.
A family farm here in Delray, California. I think your grandfather, he came here in
1899.
I'm just trying to visualize him arriving in California with all of these dreams, with all of these hopes for a better life, not having any idea that it would evolve over the generations into what it has become. You got to think back to that a lot.
Oh, when I think back at the sacrifices that he and my grandmother made so we could have this, it's overwhelming. But it's also part of that legacy that we live with every day in the foods that we eat. It's part of that sense of family that's woven into this land, into this farmhouse, into our farm.
Yeah, the dreams, the California dreams that your grandparents had, that your mom and dad had, and the dreams that you have for your children,
Yeah,
and your legacy.
And if we're lucky, we're able to pass that down to our children, and they would understand and make that connection as opposed to a disconnect with the past.
Wow. Well, if there was ever a connection to the past and a connection to the family, it's this right here. You don't have to search the world for happiness. You found it right here in Delray on this farm.
Absolutely, and it's as if it's all captured in this bowl of peach and peach cobbler.
We have had an absolutely wonderful day with your whole family on this family farm. Your family is definitely part of California's gold. What a wonderful California farm family. And if you'd like to hear their inspirational story again, share it with family or friends, or more importantly, donate a copy to your local school or library. It's available on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.